The headquarters of Monroe Technologies loomed quiet over downtown Savannah, Georgia. Not silent from peace, but silence that screamed. Red strobes pulsed faintly from within, flickering against the frostbitten windows like the heart monitor of a dying giant. Alara pushed open the glass door. It sighed on its hinges. No security greeted her. No receptionist offered a smile. Just the hum of machines failing. Down the main corridor, monitors cast crimson halos. Streams of corrupted code poured across the walls like blood vessels rupturing on a digital body. The servers coughed and blinked, flickering like dying stars. At the center of it all, he stood, Grant Monroe. Still. Staring. Shattered. He didn't hear her footsteps. Didn't see her come closer. His silhouette flickered against the collapsing grid, surrounded by the echo of betrayal. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance, emergency protocols kicking in far too late. But there were no footsteps behind them. The building was empty. Just him. Just her. And 1,000 broken screens. Do you know what it's like to watch everything you've built fall apart and realize no one's coming to help? Grant whispered, voice hollow. Alara's voice didn't answer, her eyes did. Sad. Alert. Anchored. To the viewer, have you ever trusted someone so much you didn't see the knife in their hand? He didn't move when she reached for his shoulder. Didn't flinch when she gently turned his phone toward her. The screen lit up. An email. Time-stamped. Less than 6 hours ago. Ethan Callaway has completed the transfer of remaining shares. Monroe Technologies is no longer viable under Callaway Holdings' investment structure. Alara blinked. The name hit her like ice water. Above the message, a note from Vivian Callaway, Grant's wife. You chose poorly, Grant. He sank onto a bench, legs folding beneath a weight not measured in pounds. They pulled everything, he murmured. After I begged them to stay. A fragment of memory bubbled up, Grant as a child, seated stiffly at the Callaway estate, his mother's cold smile pressed like wax. This is your legacy, darling. Don't ever shame it. Now shame dripped from every corner of the room. Her phone buzzed. Alara's brow creased as she read the message. The one you trusted let them in. No name. No trace. Just 6 words and a wrecked man beside her. She read it twice. Would you dare ask who betrayed you if you were afraid of the answer? She asked the void. She turned on her heel and walked to the double doors. Locked them. Deadbolt. The world could wait. She sat beside him, but not to comfort. To command. Give me your laptop, she said flatly. Grant blinked. It's gone, he croaked. Everything. Not everything. She opened the console, fingers moving with the precision of muscle memory long ignored. Numbers raced across the screen, chaotic, vicious, but not unbeatable. Alara's mind rolled back. Courtrooms. Boardrooms. Men like Ethan laughing across polished mahogany tables. Dismissing her with words dipped in poison. Not this time. You need to stop crying, she said without looking up. And start remembering. His eyes snapped toward her. She didn't flinch. There's a moment when love shifts. When you stop holding someone. And start holding them up. The lights above flickered violently. Then stilled. A knock at the main entrance shattered the tension. 2 men. Badges. Flashlights. The FBI, early. Grant stood too fast, staggering. I didn't do anything. Sir, we have questions about your company's insurance policies and data firewalls. Alara stepped between them. Stop. She held out a business card, legal credentials. He's under mental duress. Any questions come through me. They paused. She didn't. Vivian Calloway's public statement pinged on the news ticker behind them. Our hearts go out to Monroe Technologies. We will assist in every way possible. Alara clenched her jaw. He's not the criminal. He's the victim of the crime. A memory surged, Arthur Calloway, years ago, whispering to her during a fundraiser. If you ever see my son in danger, do what I never could. She gripped Grant's wrist. Hard enough to wake him. This is the moment you stand the hell up. Would you take the fall for your family or take them down before they take you? Time didn't pause, but something in Grant did. The weight shifted. Later, when the agents left, Grant sat quietly, staring at her. She was on the phone. Not panicked. Not afraid. Organized. He realized then, Alara wasn't surprised. Not really. You knew this could happen. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her hand moved across the screen, searching system backups. One file blinked. Untouched. She tapped into the root trace, fingers dancing. One IP signature remained. Familiar. Her eyes narrowed. Oh, it was never about money, she whispered. It was personal. Grant's lips parted. What did you see? But Alara didn't respond. Not yet. That night, my husband lost his company. But me? I just found a reason to stay. The server room felt colder now. Not because of the winter wind outside, but the quiet war brewing in the wires. Alara moved fast, too fast for someone who should have been cleaning, not coding. She knelt before a steel panel flush with the floor, fingers running the edges like a surgeon looking for the first incision. Then, with a soft click, the panel opened. You've worked here how long? Grant asked, brow knit tight. She didn't look up. Long enough to know where all the dead systems are buried. You just picked that up? Alara smirked. You pick up things cleaning the bones of dying companies. She reached inside the opening, bypassed a circuit block, and rerouted power with muscle memory that betrayed experience. A nearby terminal flickered back to life. Grant stared. Uneasy. Confused. Suspicious. He turned to another terminal, quietly pulling archived security footage. Alara. Entering the building. Always after hours. 4 months. So why tonight, why now? She didn't answer. She simply turned her head toward another screen coming alive. Data streamed like rainfall. To the viewer, if someone you trusted had secrets, would you confront them or let them save you first? Alara's hands trembled slightly as the flicker of blue light from the screen caught her eyes. But her breath stayed even. 6 years earlier. Her own company, Rich Tech Solutions, was thriving. Until Titan Systems buried them in litigation. She still remembered the sound of the printer that day, legal notices spooling out like knives. Her CTO had slammed a coffee mug against the wall. They gutted us, he shouted. You didn't see it coming? But she had. Just not fast enough. That day, her name meant something. And then it didn't. She became a ghost. Not because she had to. But because being invisible meant access. Every building she cleaned was a system she mapped. Every keyboard she touched, a step closer to revenge. She didn't mop floors. She mapped firewalls. On one of her old notebooks, archived, yellowed, scanned by memory, was a name she never forgot. Ethan Calloway. Back in the present, Grant leaned over a desk, quietly adjusting the angle of a mounted webcam. A temporary office, a makeshift command post. Hours later, he sat alone watching the footage. Ilera. Tracing log routes. Pulling recovery strings. Her precision, clinical. Her presence, unmistakable. She's not a janitor, he whispered. She's a goddamn firewall. When he confronted her, she didn't flinch. Took you long enough, she said. You've been spying. I've been watching the roof fall in. You just noticed the smoke. He pointed a trembling finger. I trusted you. You're sleeping in a house built by liars, and I'm the stranger? She laid it out, all of it. Server trails traced back to Ethan's ghost accounts. Embedded fail-safes. Hidden backdoors. A silent coup dressed as an accident. The rage in Grant's throat burned. But what terrified him more was how calmly she delivered it. They worked in silence for an hour. The only sound, fingers on keys, processors humming like angry bees. Grant dozed in a chair, chin to chest. Ilera didn't stop. Her voice barely above a whisper. People think survival is noise. It's not. It's silence. It's showing up when no one sees you. By 2:45 a.m., she'd restored 70% of the servers. One file appeared, timestamped 4 hours before the crash. Internal access. A known location. Grant stirred as it came into view. His eyes widened. That room. Ilera locked the file. Later. Then, sirens again. System alert. Remote access triggered from an internal node. Ilera's breath caught. It's not from outside. She typed furiously. The IP traced up. Clara's floor. They sprinted upstairs, lights flickering with every step. But when they arrived, it was empty. A single post-it note sat crookedly on a warm monitor. Dig deeper, and she burns. Grant stared at it. This isn't a leak, Ilera said. It's a war. To the viewer, have you ever felt your life was being rewritten by someone who knew your every weakness? By 3 a.m., they were back in the control room. The hum of the servers now felt like breathing. Erratic, but alive. Grant sat across from her. Finally asking. Why help me? She sat back, eyes hollow but hard. Because I know what it's like to lose everything and still be invisible. Grant's eyes lingered on her hands, calloused, scarred, surgical. You're not just saving my company, he said softly. I'm saving your memory of who you were, before they told you who to be. She didn't wait for him to respond. She turned to her terminal and opened the one file no one dared touch. The hum of servers pulsed like a heartbeat in the dark. Morning hadn't broken, but the air inside Monroe Technologies had changed. Grant sat on the cold floor, legs stretched out, back pressed against the rack. Beside him, Ilera didn't stop moving. Her fingers danced across the keyboard, her expression focused, unreadable. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering now and then, like the building itself was holding its breath. He watched her in silence. The woman he once believed vacuumed hallways now ran code that rebuilt empires. Step by step, she said without looking at him, we rebuild. He nodded, not because he understood, but because he wanted to believe. A new monitor flickered. On screen, white numbers began counting down. Data integrity, 7 hours 46 minutes and 22 seconds. Grant leaned in. That's how long until we lose it all. Alara's eyes never left the code. That's how long we have to save it. He folded his arms. You're oddly calm for someone watching the house burn. Because, she replied, pausing only for breath, I've done this before. To the viewer, have you ever worked through the night while someone you love waited silently beside you? Her hands moved again, typing a sequence Grant didn't recognize. Then she paused, eyes narrowing on a strange folder. Legacy_admin_Arthur, she read aloud. She clicked. Inside sat one file, untitled. Audio. She played it. Vivian's voice filled the space. Smooth. Cold. Erase him completely. Legacy, contracts, visibility, by morning, he's no longer part of Monroe. He'll be a story we never told. Grant's blood ran cold. She said what? Alara stared straight ahead. The timestamp this was 3 hours before the attack. She pressed a button. The audio was recorded to her phone, copied, and tucked into a hidden path within a secondary server. What would you do, she whispered, almost to herself, if the betrayer lived in your house wore your family name? He didn't answer. But when they stood in the empty office again, he finally turned. You never told me, he said. You investigated me. She didn't flinch. I didn't investigate you. I investigated our future. Grant's fists curled. That's just semantics. No. It's clarity. You engineered this, he growled, to save me? I engineered the chance to save us, she said. Quiet. Controlled. You manipulated me, he snapped. I freed you, she replied. And in that moment, silence fell between them like a curtain. He stepped away, the air tight around him. Behind him, Alara turned and typed without pause. Command, restore, step 4. To the viewer, would you stay loyal to someone who lied if that lie gave you your life back? Then, the lights died. A sudden, heavy blackout blanketed the server floor in red emergency light. Screens went black. Alarms chirped, weak but urgent. Grant cursed under his breath. Not again! Alara spun to a panel, already diagnosing. It's not system failure, she muttered. It's coming from the Callaway wing. He hesitated. She didn't. Run diagnostics. Now. She grabbed a handheld tool, began rerouting manual power through an auxiliary grid. For the first time, he saw it. She wasn't just help. She was partner. To the viewer, when the lights go out on your world, will you panic or stand by someone shining in the dark? Within 20 minutes, power surged back. Monitors blinked alive. Lines of code danced. Systems booted. One line of code directed to an access point. A terminal pinged, bright and sharp. User, E. Callaway. Grant read it aloud. His voice flat. My brother's name. Alara placed a hand on his shoulder. Yes. And your name can survive this. He stepped forward, pressed a key. Files exploded on screen, financial data, illegal transfers, buried invoices. Pages and pages of secrets. She moved beside him. Export, she said. He tapped once more. and then silence. Grant stood still, watching it all download. "I never wanted this," he said. "But now," Alara replied, "you know what's worth rebuilding." He closed his eyes. "Let's finish this." The first light of dawn filtered through the cracked blinds of Monroe Technologies. The storm of code had quieted, leaving only the hum of servers and the distant echo of exhaustion. Alara stood over the console, eyes burning from hours of data recovery. Grant was beside her, bleary-eyed but determined, his tie loosened, his world still hanging by a thread. She typed a final command, her fingers steady despite the tremor of truth beneath them. A new login flashed across the monitor, TC_admin, access 2:15 a.m. Alara's jaw tightened. "Thomas Calderon," she whispered. Grant blinked. "Thomas? That's impossible. He's my friend." Alara didn't speak. She opened the security footage, grainy black and white images of Thomas walking out of the server room minutes before the blackout. His face half hidden, a USB drive glinting between his fingers. Grant stepped back, his throat closing. "He was here?" "Yes." "No, he helped me start this company. He vouched for me at every board meeting." Alara's eyes lifted, sharp. "And he knew where your weakest firewall was." Grant's hands shook, knuckles whitening against the metal desk. "How many friends have you trusted?" she said quietly, before realizing they stood on the wrong side. He didn't answer. The truth was already shredding his silence. The corridor outside was still half-lit when Alara heard the sound of shoes. Steady. Familiar. Thomas Calderon emerged from the corner, suit immaculate, expression calm as ever. "You're early," he said, voice smooth as a salesman's lie. "I never left," Alara replied. He chuckled. "You still talk like a woman cleaning up other people's messes." She didn't move. "You built this one." He stepped closer. "I built you once." His voice softened, almost tender. "Do you remember those late nights at Titan Systems? You were the only one who saw me, not the paycheck, not the name. Just me." Alara froze for a fraction of a second. Grant appeared behind her. "What is he talking about?" Thomas smiled, turning toward Grant. "She didn't tell you? We were lovers once. Before you came along and played the hero." Grant's face went pale. Alara's words came low and sharp. "That was before you sold data that killed my career." He smirked. "You call it betrayal. I call it survival. Derek Shaw paid me enough to stay quiet. Enough to bury you both." To the viewer, have you ever felt love used as a weapon against you? Grant lunged, but Alara stopped him with a raised hand. "He wants chaos," she said, eyes never leaving Thomas's. "He wants us to look broken before he finishes the job." The lights flickered, then died, again. Sirens screamed down the hall, doors sealing one by one with hydraulic clicks. Thomas's voice echoed through the darkness. "One last victory for the Callaway name." Alara's pulse spiked. She sprinted toward the stairwell, flashlight beam cutting through red haze. The air smelled of burning circuits and betrayal. She reached the rooftop access. Wind slapped her face as dawn bled into the horizon. There, by the generator, something blinked. A small USB drive jammed into the main switch. Its label read, client_fees.pdf. She yanked it out. The building's hum changed instantly, systems rebooting, alarms silenced. Behind her, footsteps. Thomas stood at the terrace edge, tie loosened, eyes wild. "You always underestimated me." No, she said, stepping forward, I just hoped you'd change. He lunged, shoving her shoulder. She hit the railing hard, USB clattering across the concrete. Grant burst through the stairwell door. Get away from her! Thomas turned, smirking. She lied to you, Grant. Every word. Alara kicked the USB out of his reach. And you lied to everyone. Thomas grabbed for the drive. Grant moved faster, tackling him. They struggled at the ledge, fists, fury, years of friendship twisting into violence. Alara joined, pulling Thomas back by the jacket. For one suspended moment, all three stood locked in the gray morning light. Then Thomas's footing slipped. He fell backward into the fog below, silent, vanishing before sound caught up. To the viewer, when danger comes from inside your house, do you stay to fight or flee to survive? By the time paramedics arrived, Thomas was gone, no body, no trace. Only the shattered railing and the cold wind as witness. Grant scrolled through his phone, scanning breaking headlines. A viral video already spreading, Thomas and Maria Calloway, recorded in the server room hours before the attack. Her voice low, his expression guilty. Alara sat on the concrete ledge, watching the Savannah River burn gold under the new sun. Her voice was hoarse when she spoke. We're out of time. Grant's voice steadied. I understand now. She turned to him, eyes reflecting both grief and grit. Then we go on offense. To the viewer, when your world cracks open, do you mop the floor or break the door down? They stood together as the city woke, the weight of truth settling between them like dawn after a storm. They'd survived the night, but what waited in daylight would be worse. We realized the enemy was wearing our name. Now we decide whose future we'll protect, and whose we'll rewrite. The morning after Thomas's fall was strangely bright. Sunlight spilled across the marble floors of Monroe Technologies, a cruel contrast to the night that had gutted them. Alara walked through the lobby, her pulse steady, her face unreadable. She expected the press, maybe the board, maybe questions. What she didn't expect were the uniforms. Two officers stepped forward. Alara Monroe? She nodded. Yes. Savannah PD. You're under arrest for initiating the Monroe cyber attack. The words cut through the air like glass. Grant was standing across the hall, halfway through a phone call. The receiver slipped from his hand as he saw her wrists bound. Cameras flashed. Voices shouted. Tech wife arrested in scandal. Was the savior actually the saboteur? Alara didn't flinch. Her chin lifted as handcuffs clicked. She thought, you never fear being judged until the world watches you handcuffed. Grant tried to speak, but the officers moved too fast. The lobby door opened to a crowd of reporters. Flashbulbs exploded like gunfire. To the viewer, has the public ever seen only the scar and not the wound behind it? They pushed her into the back of a black SUV. The cameras followed, the world already deciding her guilt before the truth even had time to breathe. Back inside Monroe's media room, chaos bloomed. Reporters camped outside, drones hovered overhead. Grant sat at his desk, fingers pressed into his temples. A courier entered quietly, setting a manila envelope in front of him. Service of process, the man said. You've been named. Grant tore it open. A lawsuit. Filed that morning. Alleging insider trading, securities fraud, and market manipulation. The plaintiff, Ethan Calloway. His brother's name burned through the page like fire. He felt his heartbeat in his ears. Alara, still handcuffed, was escorted into a small interview room nearby. A guard slipped him a copy of her notes before shutting the door. Inside them, Alara had scrawled a phrase, "They're trying to bury us with our own name." He whispered it aloud. Our own name. To the viewer, when truth costs everything, what's your price for silence? At the courthouse, fluorescent lights hummed as Alara sat at a steel table. Her wrists were free now, but the room still felt like a cage. Across from her, two investigators spread photographs on the desk. One showed her at a protest years ago, handmade sign, younger, defiant. You were with Titan Systems, the older agent said. Then blacklisted. You've been inside tech networks ever since. Why? She met his eyes calmly. Because the people who run those networks think they own everyone who touches a keyboard. He flipped another photo. You hacked Monroe 7 years ago. That's what this says. A pause. Flashback, her younger self, a paralegal fighting for a fired whistleblower. Titan Systems had framed the man. Alara hacked the database to prove it. She won the case. Lost her job. Lost her name. Present again, her voice steady. I fought for the powerless. They made me invisible. Now they make me the villain. The door burst open. Grant. Hair disheveled, eyes red. You're not questioning her without me. Alara turned toward him. Calm. Certain. It's fine, Grant. I'm ready. To the viewer, could your worst mistake be the very thing that saves you? Outside the courthouse, the media circus reached a fever pitch. Microphones everywhere. Phones lifted. Riley Thorne, the online journalist who had been live-tweeting Monroe's downfall, was streaming every second. A clip hit the screens, Alara Monroe's secret hack files. Edited. Cropped. Twisted. 7 years of deceit, Riley's voice narrated. Was this all her plan? Grant squeezed Alara's hand as they stepped out to the podium. Her reflection flashed back at her from 100 screens, criminal, hacker, wife. She leaned to him. This isn't a boardroom, she whispered. It's a battlefield. Cameras popped. A reporter shouted, Why did you betray your husband? Alara lifted her chin. I didn't betray him. I rescued us from your truth. The crowd went silent for a moment, then the noise returned like thunder. To the viewer, when you face the court of public opinion, do you speak your truth, or let silence speak for you? Grant's hands trembled as he opened a laptop, broadcasting live from the courthouse steps. Alara reached into her bag and produced a small encrypted drive, the same one she'd pulled from Thomas's chaos. This, she said into the mic, is the truth. She plugged it in. On screen, names appeared: Ethan Calloway, Derek Shaw. Payments. Transfers. Offshore accounts. Lines of communication proving the architecture of Monroe's collapse. This wasn't a mistake, she said. It was design. The reporters froze. Viewers around the world watched in real time. Grant looked at her, his disbelief shifting to pride. She was no longer the accused. She was the witness, the warrior. Across town, Ethan's investors began withdrawing their funds. By evening, stock tickers flashed red. Callaway Holdings down 43%. The headlines flipped. Family empire under fire. CEO's wife exposes corporate conspiracy. Alara exhaled, the first real breath in days. They never saw the janitor's notebook coming, she whispered. To the viewer, sometimes, the truth costs everything, but buys you back yourself. The crowd erupted in chaos, but this time, she didn't flinch. The house of lies crumbled, but she and Grant stood in its ashes, hand in hand, ready to rebuild what stood. Grant stood at the courthouse steps, wind brushing against the back of his suit, the morning sun warming the cold metal pen in his hand. Cameras flashed. Lawyers hovered. The crowd whispered like a brewing storm. He didn't flinch. With one long breath, he signed. Document after document, transferring ownership of Monroe Technologies, his patents, and his entire estate. Not to Alara. Not to the court. To separation of her name from his, legally. I'm not protecting a company, he told the press. I'm protecting the woman who saved it, and me. Off to the side, Vivian and Ethan watched their empire unravel on live TV. Their faces stoic. Their silence loud. Behind the crowd, Alara stood alone. No makeup. No lawyer. Just her. She didn't step forward. She didn't need to. He saw her. And that was enough. To the audience, would you give up everything to save someone who once saved you? That morning, Monroe Technologies became just a name. But the truth, finally, was a legacy worth keeping. Inside the courtroom, the final nail was struck with no drama, just paperwork and precision. Howard Greaves stood with confidence, Arthur Calloway's seal will in hand. He placed it before the judge with a soft thud. Your Honor, this document predates the transfer of Titan Systems assets. It proves Grant Monroe was the intended heir, and that Ethan and Derek acted in willful deceit. Vivian's lips curled at the edges. You don't understand what this family built, she whispered. Alara, standing beside Grant, replied without raising her voice, I just know what it destroyed. The judge read the verdict. Alara Monroe, cleared of all charges. Grant Monroe, legally severed from the Calloway financial web. The courtroom didn't erupt, it exhaled. Flashbulbs blinked. Papers shuffled. The moment felt less like victory and more like exorcism. To the audience, when justice finally finds you, does it heal, or does it haunt? That evening, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Alara stood by the window, her single suitcase zipped, her coat folded neatly over her arm. She left no long letter, just a note, scribbled on a torn page from her old janitor's notebook. You've been saved. I need to learn what that means for me. One ink drop bled into the paper. A tear she hadn't meant to leave behind. When Grant returned hours later, he found the note and sat on the edge of the bed, holding it between shaking fingers. She saved me twice, he whispered. To the audience, sometimes the bravest thing love can do is walk away. Snow drifted lazily across the streets of Savannah, a year later. Grant adjusted the collar of his coat as he stepped off the trolley, the old envelope in his hand nearly falling apart. On it, one name, one address. No return. Just a hope. He found her in a small community center tucked between shuttered bookstores and rebuilt diners. Inside, rows of kids typed furiously on aging keyboards. Alara stood at the whiteboard, chalk in one hand, purpose in the other. When she saw him, she didn't flinch. She just smiled, like she knew he'd come. You found me. He dropped to one knee, holding a velvet box. Inside, that ring. The modest one. The one Vivian had once mocked. I don't want a company, he said. I want to build something no one can break. She stepped forward, taking the ring gently. Then let's build something better than what burned. To the audience, have you ever rebuilt yourself from ashes and found something better than what burned? The children ran outside at recess. One boy returned quietly, placing a folded note in Alara's hand. It read, "Thank you for teaching us to dream." She looked toward Grant, who was kneeling beside a dusty computer, plugging in new cables. Sunlight hit the ring on her finger. It shimmered, not in gold, but in meaning. Narrator's voice, soft and certain, sometimes the miracle isn't in being found. It's in never losing yourself again. The Phoenix Hub sign swung lightly in the breeze behind her. Her voice, faint but clear, the floor you were swept under can become the ground you rise from.